The big shocker of the day for lakhs of school students across the country, not to mention their parents, the CBSE saying that 2 board exams for class 10 and 12 have to be conducted again after copies of the question papers were doing the round on, what else, WhatsApp. A storm of petitions against this re-exam is already underway.
Just this morning, first-time board exam takers from class 10th emerged from their mathematics paper, relieved about putting it behind them. But not for long. The CBSE said they must take the exam again.
And if over 16 lakh students will retake this exam, many from the 12 lakh students taking the class 12th exam will sit again for their economics paper. The economics exam was held on the 26th of March, described as one of average difficulty. This year, interestingly, the CBSE had changed the marking scheme, introducing a practical component of 20 marks, which meant the theory paper was conducted for 80 marks. According to reports, a major chunk of the questions asked in the class 10th maths paper were from NCERT books. Students said the exam was easier compared to other exams this year, although lengthy. CBSE only cited happenings, but allegations of leaks erupted when images of handwritten question papers started circulating on WhatsApp and social media. Similar allegations were raised over an accounts paper held on the 15th of March, but no re-exam has been mentioned for that yet.
Because of the leakage of the paper and the CBSE's fault, we have to, all the people who haven't struggled for these many days have to re-write the exam.
The paper was easy. Confirm the next time the paper will be tough, we are expecting.
It was not really easy to study maths, and studying it once more and writing an exam once more, it will be difficult.
Coming just after the row over the SSC paper leak, it's more bad news for India students.
CBSE के पेपर लीक के मामले की हमने बहुत गंभीरता से संज्ञान लिया है। पीएम को हर घटना पर उस पर उनको पूरी जानकारी देते ही है।
Both the CBSE and the Education Ministry have put the blame on local miscreants or gangs for the leaks, asserting that the CBSE is not at fault. Only a police investigation, however, can absolve the board of any wrongdoing. In New Delhi, this is Nimsha Jaswal for NDTV.
Well, Nimisha is joining us live now with more on this investigation that has been started by the Delhi police. And Nimisha, what more are you hearing? We believe a special team has been formed now to look into this board exam leak, but it's too late for many students. That's now not really something that they're worried about.
That's right, Nidhi. Whatever the team finds will not help the students in at least not giving the exam again. So the students have the same problem on their hands. What the impact of the leak will reach them anyway. But speaking about the special investigation team, a special investigation team has been formed by the Delhi police because these leaks, though it's a national board, these leaks did happen in some Delhi schools. Now, a 7-member team has been formed. It is headed by a joint commissioner of police and 2 DCPs, 5 more inspectors, and they have already started the probe. 2 FIRs have been filed as well. The first was filed on the 27th. Now, the probe has already found that the leaked papers actually came out the evening before the exam, so not just the morning, as some people have been saying, that half an hour before the exam started, the papers were circulating. The probe has already found that it might have come out the evening before the exam. Now, Minister Javadekar also mentioned that if serious lapses were found, the CBSE will consider revising taking any special measures to prevent such leaks in the future, and that a unified testing body might be considered for next year. But as you mentioned, everything would be retrospective. The 28 lakh students giving the board exams this year will feel the pinch of this leak this year itself.
All right, Nimisha, I know you'll be following that investigation yourself. Thanks very much for joining us on that. Well, here in the studio with us this evening, we've got students, we've got parents, educationists, and political voices on what has really turned out to be a huge story today. Ms. Lata Vaidyanathan, the former principal of Modern School, is joining us tonight here in the studio with us. Ayati Patania, who's a class 10 student who was shocked that she would have to take her maths paper again. Deepa Bhatia is a parent whose son is also in class 10 and has to now deal with taking that maths paper again. Harnoor Singh is a student of class 10 who's joining us in the studio here as well from Vasant Valley School. Pawan Khera of the Congress and Pradeep Bhandari, well-known political analyst with leanings towards the BJP, joining us here in the studio. Let me first ask the students about what they've gone through today. So, Ayati, when you heard about this, what was your first reaction? I mean, how have you taken this news over retest?
I was really astonished when I heard students saying that, oh, we had attempted this paper first only last evening. What do you mean? Some students actually said that. Yeah, they were 10 to 15. All of them are my friends, close friends. So they were saying that, yeah, we have attempted this paper first. They were shaking hands, they were hooting when they read the paper. The 15 minutes that we get while reading the paper, instead of reading the paper, they were just hooting because I think so, they already knew what was in the paper.
And they were saying that we'd already seen. And did they say where they had got it from?
Most probably they were saying that they had received it from WhatsApp messages. And as I'm not active on phone during the exam time, so I was not aware about this. And secondly, when a boy was sitting behind me and he was, he had learnt all the answers of the questions. In those 15 minutes, he was able to say that of this question, this is the answer. Like all the questions related to statistics, construction, mensuration. So it's a really very astonishing moment for all those students who are not aware that what's happening at that right moment.
And how do you feel about the fact that something like this has happened and you worked so hard for this exam and now you have to take the test again?
It's actually very disappointing because I had burned the midnight oil, I had slept nearly at 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. and I got at 4 a.m. So I had studied very much hard, but yeah, I've attempted the paper well. It was a good paper. Everything was from NCERT, but seeing that the students who are not good in studies are securing more marks than us, are achieving success, so that would be really very disappointing and heartbreaking.
But that's actually shocking. You're saying that your own classmates, your own friends claim to have got WhatsApp messages, and obviously then they didn't get it that morning, they got it the previous day. This is not just something that happened at the last minute.
Yeah, 4 hours is enough, for revising the paper, and it's really a miracle for all of us, seeing that we have revised, we are well known with all the questions and everything which we have to attempt, we have to score for.
Well, Deepa Bhatia, you're a parent, and this must be a day that infuriates you. And I mean, as a parent, how do you feel about what has happened?
I think I'll just echo what she has mentioned, because as a parent, this is the first year that anyway the kids were writing boards. So there was a high level of anxiety. They all have slogged throughout the year. Maths is anyway a stressful paper for most of them. And I think, working that hard, and, when I spoke to my son after the exam, he said, well, it was a good paper because it came from NCERT, and I'm very happy that I attempted that. Immediately after that, you get to see the news that, okay, the paper has been leaked. Obviously, it infuriates me as a parent, and if, it's already available on WhatsApp messages and in tuition or wherever else, people are already attempting those papers, that means that somewhere CBSE would have known that this paper is already leaked. So I think the best that they should have done is to have stalled the paper today.
Not let the students sit for the test in the first place.
Yeah, they should not have been allowed to sit for the paper. They could have postponed the paper, and obviously the kids are really right now so agonized because the whole thought of giving the paper again is really perturbing. And for a lot of kids, the papers get over today. So everybody has plans to get out of the city. The year has been really full of stress for parents, for kids, everybody working hard, and then suddenly you get to see this, and especially after the 12th paper getting leaked, I think they should have been much more careful.
In fact, there were reports on Monday that the economics paper had been leaked, and the CBSE denied that there was a leak, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment. Harnoor, you're a class 10 student as well. Let me just get your thoughts on this idea of having to take a retest, and just how upsetting it is to know that after working so hard, in a sense, all your effort goes down the drain, in a matter of hours.
I completely agree. I think I was also so shocked because I heard the news 2 hours after we were done with our exams. So I think I was really shocked when I heard the news, because I realized because once you're done with the exams, you're so relieved, and you realize how mentally taxing those 365 days have been. Because especially for our school, especially for a few students like me, we've never given a board exam before. So when we entered the class 10 classroom, there was only talk about the board exam from teachers, from other students. So we knew that the next 365 days of our lives are only going to be a build up towards those 5 board exams. So I think the last thing a student wants to hear is that we're going to have to go through that same mentally taxing process again, and we're going to have to give the same exam again. So I think it was really disappointing, and especially, like you said, especially after hearing about the economics exam, about the malpractices that took place recently, I think that was incentive enough for the system to be more vigilant. So I think it's extremely disappointing, and it's really sad that students like us are going to have to go through that same process again, and it's so stressful. So I think it is very disappointing.
But Harnoor, did any of your classmates, did you have any indication that anybody in your school already knew about what the questions might be? Like Ayati is saying that very honestly that there were people who obviously had got the questions on WhatsApp the day before. Did you have a similar experience?
You know, definitely not, because I remember when we were done with the paper, a lot of people were surprised at how easy it was, because I think everyone just expects math as a subject to be of a higher level. So when we were done with the exam, a lot of people were really surprised with how easy it was. So I don't think anyone...
Well, I hope for everyone's sake that it continues to be easy when you have to take this test again. But Ms. Lata Vaidyanathan, ma'am, you know, as an educationist, I'm sure you're horrified to see something like this happen. I also want to ask you that when you heard the Education Minister finally speaking on this afternoon, he's talked about a couple of solutions. And I want to ask you whether you think that they will work. A national testing team, I don't know what that means. He says that with the help of technology, we will devise a system which will make paper leaks impossible in the future, and that all announcements regarding the matter will be made by the board itself, essentially saying it's not the ministry but the board that will be the only sole conductor of these exams. Do you think that these solutions will work? I really don't know what the first one means. It's very vague right now.
Nidhi, two things. Firstly, my heart really reaches out to those students who are really in distress right now, and they need to take the exams over and over again. And for the first timers, particularly with a subject like math for class 10, it must be horrible for them to think that they have to go through it all over again. Secondly, the same is true for 12th standard children also, whether it's a subject of economics or accountancy. Thankfully, only economics and math they are talking about right now. But I think the larger question is, even if the minister is talking about anything that is prospectively to happen, I think they need to put their heads together to see whether this one set exams, one time exams has to decide the future of our children in this country. Is really sad. In spite of the various improvements or reforms that we are talking about, everything in the future tense, I think we need to look very deeply into our system to see what are those improvements, what are the reforms that must take place so that children are not put through this huge stress of exams over and over again. And what has happened is disastrous. I think everyone who is accountable for this must be taken to task. I know it's easier said than done, and the systems need to be fixed more carefully. Otherwise, I think the students are going to go through this harassment, and what guarantee that the next set of papers are not going to go through the same fate as what has happened already. And look at the distress the children have to face. Look at the kind of future exams that they have to take, because they all must be getting ready for all kinds of entrance tests. So one exam, two exam, repeat exams, no guarantee, and then the pressure of getting into the entrance exams and their results. What kind of homes, what kind of stress levels for the parents?
Do you think that a retest is the only option here? And that's what I'm coming to, because you know there is already a group of parents and students who are launching petitions on change.org. They are planning to protest tomorrow. They are saying that this is completely unfair. You cannot put students through this again. But what is the alternative? Is there any other way out of this? Is a retest fair?
No, Nidhi. I don't think there's an alternative, only because it has to be fair to the entire community and lakhs of students who are taking the exams. It will be stressful, it would be difficult, but that's the only way forward, because what else is the solution? They can't do anything about it right now. And in a subject like economics, it impacts all the three streams: the sciences, the business, the commerce group, as well as the humanities group. So I don't think there's any other way forward, and in order to be fair to everybody, this needs to be taken again, because there is no choice. But the real reforms have to be thought about.
I think you made an excellent
national
point.
Testing schemes
Stop
and the things that he's
exams,
talking about
do
needs
or
more
die.
clarity.
Stop making these exams do or die. Before I open it up to the political panel, Ayati had a point to make.
For me, the re-exam which is happening, I think so it's a fair thing, because many students will secure good marks by adopting unfair things. The student who has studied everything, who is well prepared, should not be afraid of this re-exam, and should rather be, thankful that we are getting an opportunity for, expressing our knowledge, and for, fairly fairly securing good marks. Many students.
That's a good attitude to go with. And
Yeah,
that's a very good attitude.
And if we are well known with all the topics, so why should we afraid of the re-exam happening?
That's
a coin has two phases.
That's a good a good way to look at it. Pawan Khera, though, this isn't just about the board exam leak. We had the SSC exam leak, which is now being investigated by the CBI. I mean, this is a big problem, and now it has happened in the board exams, which, as Lata Vaidyanathan rightly pointed out, are the exams that literally predict the future of your kids, which is why parents are so stressed about it and kids are so stressed about it. I mean, there's a pattern of leaks here.
In fact, there's not just a pattern of leaks, Nidhi. This is a strange government which has a pattern of leaks and plants. That the Prime Minister is upset about these leaks is also a plant, by the way. And this is a government which is into full-time into politics, part-time into governance. As we approach the elections, they have no time for governance. This attitude of IIT is the attitude which the Prime Minister should learn from. Now imagine, because they only understand political language, therefore I am resorting to a political language. Imagine if Mr. Modi were to be told, go in for a re-election in Gujarat. What will he think? How will he take that? Now, this is something which we all need to understand. This, unfortunately, it's the children who are trying to sensitize us on how to take this kind of a challenge for no fault of theirs, maybe. Nothing to do with them. And they are paying the price for bad governance, not just SSC, AIMS, for example. Every second day there is something or the other. Either the election commission, the dates get leaked, the data gets leaked, the question papers get leaked.
This is the most important leak that should concern all of us. Frankly, beyond Cambridge Analytica and everything else.
They are entering into a future as cynics. At this age, if they become cynical, what kind of a generation are we?
This is the first
Absolutely,
exam
this is the first
that the
step.
10th kids are giving. Yeah. So this is what they are
and
preparing
seriously, Ms. Bhatia, I don't want to get into politics. This is not where we should play politics. But
absolutely,
it's my heart bleeds when I see IIT talking like this.
But what are they, entering life with?
Absolutely.
That unfair practices exist in our country, and anybody can get away with anything.
True. Well, true. And Pradeep Bhandari, I found it astounding that when this story had broken, the education minister, firstly, I don't understand this government's practice of having your ministers do political press conferences, but chalo, that's a topic for another day. But he goes and decides to do a press conference on the West Bengal violence and then later comes to address the CBSE issue. It's an astounding statement on what your priorities are as a government, as the education minister, don't you think?
Nidhi, first of all, I think Mr. Khera was talking that he will not enter into politics and he only talked political rhetoric. So let me just answer on facts. There is a systemic issue. 2011, you had the Mumbai paper leak. You had the AIMS paper leak, you had the LIC paper leak. So there is a problem that the Congress did not address, which is the education mafia, which has been leaking.
This is the Congress's fault. What has
I'm not
with
saying
the CBSE
it's no.
paper?
Let's understand that.
Let's start from Nehru. I think much better.
No, I'm not doing that. Please, let me. Sir, I did not interrupt you. So there is a systemic problem that the papers have been leaked because of an education mafia. Because the principal responsibility of the CBSE, as it was envisioned, was not to assess and conduct examinations. That is why you have this government proposing a national testing agency with a one-time grant of 25 crores, which was shared by the Prime Minister itself. So let's understand, you can't blame the government, the secondary responsibility lies with the HRD ministry, but the primary fault is of the CBSE, and we've not reformed the education system since ages.
I'm asking you about the government's response.
Okay. And
I'm asking
so on
you
the violence
that
thing,
shouldn't the HRD minister have focused on this first and politics later?
I've got a lot of WhatsApp messages. Isn't violence an issue which has to be addressed if people are being...
On the day that something that directly concerns his ministry?
No, let's
some
understand.
other
No,
BJP
he addressed it. He addressed it on the same day.
No other BJP spokesperson could have brought up the Mamata Banerjee. If you want to play politics about West Bengal, any other BJP spokesperson could have done it. There's a whole wonderful lineup of them.
With Mr. Javadekar.
Why Mr. Javadekar?
With Mr. Javadekar was Srimati Rupa Ganguly, who is responsible for, who is a significant stakeholder in Bengal, and Mr. Javadekar also looks after the affairs in Bengal distantly. So I think he was responding to violence in Bengal, and in the same press conference, the Prime Minister himself, the most important authority, called Mr. Javadekar and expressed his unhappiness. He is the only Prime Minister who's talking about stress that the students have during examination. Tell me when did Mr. Singh talked about stress during examination?
Oh, come on.
No, I'm serious.
I mean, what? So
what is wrong in that? No, I don't understand.
I'm sorry.
Why is it
you
wrong?
are failing IIT right now in the studio.
No, I
am failing right now in the studio.
Absolutely don't. But now you tell me that after
don't get into such politics.
You will order a CBI probe. You will order a probe to punish the culprit. That is what you can do, and then you will ensure.
Pay the price.
So what should the students do? Ma'am only said that a re-examination should happen.
Yes, sir. Re-examination should happen.
Absolutely, that's what is happening, and the probe is ordered. 6 arrests have taken place.
But when you have already had so many leaks,
where will the accountability lie?
The primary accountability will lie with the CBSE, and the secondary accountability will lie with the HRD ministry for sure.